Welcome to Consumer Thursday, brought to you by the Consumer Council of Missouri. My name is George Robnett, and I am the host of this segment. And, of course, behind the scenes, we got Mr. Antonio Weston, who is the producer. We have a very, very special guest today that I am so happy to have with us, and I've been trying to reach out to him for months, and I'm finally glad I was able to narrow him down with his busy schedule. And that's Mr. Abdul-Abdullah, the executive director of the Park Central Development Corporation. Community economic development professional. That in itself says a lot, but trust me, it doesn't say everything about this gentleman. He's committed to strengthening neighborhoods and advancing economic inclusion throughout the St. Louis metropolitan region, and he's been doing so for over 25 years. He doesn't look that old, trust me. But over 25 years, he's been out here working to strengthen communities throughout the St. Louis region. He's been with the Park Central Development Corporation for over 9 years. That's a great run, 9 years. And we're going to tell you about Park Central Development Corporation and the 14 neighborhoods in which it serves. And many of you know what they are. But even greater and beyond that, he's doing things to help strengthen communities and neighborhoods throughout the city of St. Louis. Small business, commercial corridors, and most importantly, in my opinion, creating sustainable pathways for investment to help communities thrive are some of his key goals. And with that, I want to introduce you to Mr. Abdul-Abdullah.
You talking about me, George?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Talking about you, the one and only. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Why would you say that? You are the leader in the community development, revitalization, stabilization in the city of St. Louis. I mean, from a professional standpoint, from the Park Central Development aspect, I mean, your efforts, your commitment, and most importantly, the results of your efforts have demonstrated without question your capacity and the capacity and ingenuity of your corporation and your staff. So tell us a little bit about Park Central Development, your mission, your values, what your vision is. I know you've got a lot of visions because I know you're always working. Uh-huh.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Those are kind words. I think we just do the work, and I think that's the real leadership is honestly in doing the work and doing it for the community. I'll tell you a little bit about Park Central Development. Park Central Development is a community development corporation that was at this point almost 20 years old. It is actually the merger of 3 corporations out there. One of you may know, a couple of them. One was called Central West End Midtown. Another one was called McCreetown CDC. You may have heard of that one, George. And then another one, you may have heard of that one. And then the last one was Forest Park Southeast Development Corporation. One of the things that was happening is in the city of St. Louis, we don't have money that actually goes towards place-based community development. So as these corporations were active in all the different neighborhoods, the funding really took a turn. And overnight, CDCs, Community Development Corporations, were really defunded by the city of St. Louis. So the city of St. Louis doesn't fund the work that we do. Wow. And what happened, this was before I got here, they began to say, hey, how do we, one, stay sustainable? So they said, how do we do that? So we did that by merging 3 of these entities together to really have a professional staff to make sure we can keep that and then kind of serve a larger area at that time. It was the old 17th Ward at the time. Since that time, since I got there in 2017, we don't just focus in this old 17th Ward footprint, which is now a combination of what they call the 9th Ward as well as the 9th Ward is
what it is now. Yeah,
9th and the 7th.
Okay, when I was working in the neighborhoods, it was the 17th Ward.
Okay, yeah.
And I worked with Alderman at that time, Alderman Joe Robnett.
Yeah, and I got a great chance to work with Joe kind of at the end of his career. So, but now when I got there in 2017, I said I'm going to take a different approach versus being what we call ward-based, which is those kind of imaginary political boundaries. I said that we're going to work across neighborhoods because you have to work across neighborhoods because neighborhoods don't change. Right. Ward boundaries do. So one of the things that we begin to do is to work across those neighborhoods. So the mission of Park Central Development is to create urban, vibrant, equitable neighborhoods where all people can live, work, and play. And I think that's important. And there are a lot of aspects that go to live, work, and play. Even in this time now, the word equity, people really don't. That's a bad word in some places, but what equity really means is an opportunity to be able to build wealth or to get resources or to advance. And that's our mission, and that's something that we're really proud of. But we do operate in 14 neighborhoods. Some of our core neighborhoods, most people know, of course, is Forest Park Southeast of the Grove, the Central West End, Botanical Heights, as well as Kings Oak, as well as part of Midtown. We also operate north of Delmar now. So we do operate in the Academy neighborhood. We do operate in some ways in Fountain Park and in Vandervender, as well as the Bolivar Place and Skinker de Bolivar, and some other neighborhoods as well. Now, not every neighborhood gets that same gets the same level of service because you just don't have the money. But we do everything from organized neighborhood development review committees. We go out to help organize businesses. We do small business development in some of those areas, particularly on Delmar. We believe Delmar is the new phase that the city needs to invest in. I know people really love MLK, and it is worthy, and we should invest in it. But from an economic standpoint, our goal is really to lift the Delmar corridor up and to bridge the wealth gap from the Central West End, literally across the street, north of Delmar, literally across the street. So that's our mission, and that's strategically how we move.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. I mean, I was happy to see and hear that your organization also extends to the north of Delmar, but more importantly, want to create and develop that eliminate that economic barrier that tends to exist and appears to exist for years with the Delmar Divine. In addition to that, tell us about some of the projects that have been, because I can't name them all, the ones that have been successful, particularly in the Grove. Your new housing development there at, I think it's close to Vanderventer in Manchester. Your small business development. You got one of the robust business districts in the city of St. Louis, or within the region, I should say.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about a couple things. One, from a business development standpoint, we really have two key commercial corridors, and that's the Central West End and the Grove. Most people don't know that. But in the Grove, when I got there, we were about $30 million on the strip. Last year, we were at $58 million. This year, we're projected to be about $52 million. And now it's down a little bit, but over the course of 9 years, you've seen the growth we're almost to the point where it's getting ready to double. That's an annual sale.
You do have any more space?
We do. So that's one of the great things.
When I go down, travel down, I don't see where you got any more space. It looks like everything is occupied.
We have a few. Some things do change. Things do change out, but we do have about 3,000 square feet of new business space that's coming on, and so we're excited about that. But the Grove has 4 million visitors a year. Out of those 4 million visitors, 850,000 are unique visitors. The Central West End has 4.5 million visitors, and out of that, 2 million are unique. And on the strip of Euclid, it's over $200 million in retail sales annually. So that is an economic impact into the region. And I think one of the reasons we work in that space the way that we do is because someone has to do it. Now, no one in the city of St. Louis, in city government, or any place else actually does what we call place-based economic development. So no one is working to bring those small businesses into the corridor. So that's work that we've done historically, but we haven't been funded for it, but it is work that we've done historically because we understand that the value that you have to build these strong neighborhoods, but you do it through economics. So for us, it isn't just small business. It's also a part of our overall kind of wealth building strategy.
So let me go back and ask a question. That's a comment that you made. You indicated that the city does not fund community development corporations. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So your funding comes from donations, private entities, private companies, organizations, etc.
It's a combination
of many things, I'm sure. Yeah.
So probably 35 to 40% of my job is fundraising.
Absolutely.
I raised last year $350,000 just to run the corporation, and And I think everyone should do that.
That's not a small task.
But that's not a small
That's not a
task,
small task,
and
right.
that's all my experience coming together. But
Right.
we do that as a combination because we do get a fee for service.
Sure.
Those districts, we do get a
Get
fee for
service.
administering those
Right.
districts, and
Yeah.
even that we do it for a nominal fee.
Sure.
We do it
I'm
for
sure.
50,000 or less, and that's
Sure.
a
I'm sure.
full
Yeah.
that's a full operation of that
Right.
district,
Right.
and which is a deal,
Yeah.
which is a deal.
To say the least.
So,
to say the least, right.
so that funding is never sustainable. But what it also doesn't allow is the ability to be innovative, and it doesn't allow me to also, from a vision and steering standpoint, be able to really launch some of the economic programs that we need on the ground. So,
Absolutely. So, some of you who donate to non-for-profits, please consider Park Central Development on your list of nonprofits.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we're here to help. We're nonprofits as well, but we're here to assist, thriving nonprofits, small businesses, those interested in community development, and like us. And I think what we have in common is leveling the playing field for the community and residents who reside within the community. So I think, we got common goals in some respect, and I mean we're here to assist as well as you in helping stabilize the city of St. Louis and its residents and its the community as a whole. 2026 to 2030. I think your strategic plan is out. Am I correct?
It is. It is.
Oh, wow.
It is out.
And what's the vision?
I'll just sum it up in one word:
Say that.
Delmar.
Okay.
We believe with everything we do,
Okay.
we do, we will always work in our base, which is south
Sure.
of Delmar.
Sure.
That is key to keeping this city stable. It's
Sure.
the Central Corridor. But we also believe Delmar is the greatest opportunity for wealth building, not only for the city, but for Black and brown communities.
Okay.
We believe Delmar, between the city limits to Vandervender up to Page Boulevard, back in that square,
Right.
is the largest and most and best opportunity to build wealth in real estate.
Okay.
And although the tornadoes happened, the tornado really has set back, has set that back. There's still tremendous opportunity.
Right.
And I think that we have to look at it as what's the opportunity. So for us, we're really focusing in on not just Delmar, but some of the key things we're focusing in on. We're going to do what we do, and we're going to do that well. And that's really three things, George. That's going to be commercial corridor and small business development. We believe that that's a key thing. Two is going to be, how do we also work in the housing space? We do want to work in the housing space.
Right.
For us, our goal is to restart the private residential market
Okay.
in the Academy neighborhood north of Delmar. But then the last and the third piece, which is important, is our anti-displacement and wealth building. Gentrification will happen, and I think people have to understand what gentrification really is. So neighborhoods, when they revitalize, that is a form of gentrification.
Right.
Now, the thing of gentrification is you have to, first of all, have certain rules with how you engage. And we believe from our anti-displacement standpoint, we have some models and some principles that we really hold fast to. No matter what we do, we take the premise that no matter what you're going to do with revitalizing neighborhoods, you have to, A, find a way for people to stay, and then B, find a way for people to participate.
Absolutely.
And I think when you have those two things as a guiding principle, it really helps. So we have some programs that we rolled out, and they've been successful. We have a program called the RETAF program, which is a Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund. That program actually came as a result of a trip I took to Detroit, and I was looking at some models and some best practices, and they had a program that dealt with rent, because rent was going up at an exorbitant rate. And one of the things that the program did in Midtown was say, hey, however much your rent went up, we will help to subsidize that for a certain period of time.
Okay.
And I said, well, if we can do that with rent, why can't we do it with taxes and help homeowners?
I think that is so key. Generational wealth is so key to building wealth as a family, as individuals, etc. And so many of our families, from my experience, have lost properties and lost access to properties that have been in families for years because of unpaid taxes. And therefore, you lose that asset, which can be leveraged for borrowing, can be sold, can be to put a kid through college, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think people don't have to understand. You said a great point. Investing in an asset,
Right.
an asset, makes more money. You have
Right.
more resources from it. Cash isn't necessarily an asset.
No.
If I give you $1 million today, that $1 million in 10 years is not worth $1 million.
Right.
However, if I give you $1 million in real estate, that real estate appreciates, and
Value.
and I think people don't understand. You would rather borrow against the real estate,
Right.
and then just pay that off,
Right.
and then you still get the additional piece.
Well,
So that's a part of the wealth building that we have to begin to educate the community
people
on.
community on. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
think that's so key. I think that's so key is educating the community. But I think what you said also is involving the community in the process.
That's right.
I know from my past experience in revitalization of one particular neighborhood, or what we call the Garden District Commission, Garden District. Before we broke ground, we had gone through 5 years of community planning and community engagement. 5 years, trust me. So I understand the challenge, but what we wanted to ensure, as I see that you do and you want to ensure, is that people have the opportunity to be engaged, and they have an opportunity to have a voice at the table.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical, even if it's some things that they don't want to necessarily agree to or hear.
Yeah.
But they have the opportunity then to voice their opinion or disapproval or disagreement, and or present alternatives.
Right. And we have to help
Yeah.
people help them to develop those alternatives too. One of the things that we did when we first started engaging in the academy over the past 5 years, I've raised and put over $1 million in home repair in those neighborhoods. Wow. Now it's $1 million, and that seems like a big number. It's really a drop in the bucket for what's needed. But it was to engage, to say, hey, I'm coming in here as an honest broker. I'm not here to take your land. I'm not here to do anything that's going to hurt this community. And I began to engage. And you have to constantly engage, because the thing is, when it's your home, there are no rules. You get to change the rules in your own home, right? But you can say, hey, this is what we agreed to. So I think that engaging is important. And I think that community planning, to let people have a seat at the table and have community voice and actually listen, is important. And some things people don't necessarily understand the economics of things, but people understand how they feel. And if something doesn't feel right, chances are it's probably not right.
Not right.
So you have to constantly reestablish, that trust. So that community engagement piece is more than just that. It's really giving people not just a voice, but it's also giving them the tools to make the best decision.
Right. And I think that's critical. And, it's give the opportunity, when you talk about relocation and things of that nature, the opportunity for people to stay in the neighborhood if they can, if they desire to do so, which is important. So even though you're improving or advancing the neighborhood, there's families who do elect to stay, and that, if they want to, and they have that opportunity, and that's a great thing. I like to see that as well. We were successful with doing that, a couple of projects that I'd worked on in the past. And so access to community development block grant funds. Is there access to those home funds?
So from a home building standpoint, there is. If we're building a home, but the way it used to work, where you would get CDBG grants to fund community development corporations, they cut that out overnight.
Oh, okay. The only reason I asked is because I was involved with a couple of developments. If I start telling the years, it was 25 years ago. We were able to get some CDBG funds from Home Fund, and we were able to write down the development cost. And what concerns me today is when you look at cost of construction is high.
It's high. Yeah.
Development cost is high. Yeah. Because of material and because of labor. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just the way it is. The economy hasn't moved forward, and sometimes in some areas, it has prohibited some development because market just won't bear those prices.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, and I think that's what we're seeing in certain spaces, and I think that's why it's important. Affordable housing is important.
Yeah.
And I think that when people talk about affordable housing, I think they have this misconception of what it is. You do need affordable rental. One of the things, I'm very proud of in the Grove, although people think that it's just gentrified, there are over 400 units of affordable housing that's spread out in there. And, early on we did, I think, about 50 homes of affordable for sale.
For sale housing.
And I think that that's one of the keys. So one of the things that when you look at that, is that at some point you're going to have to subsidize some of people living in these homes, because you can probably produce a good quality home now for $300,000. That's what it's going to cost. I mean, if you do 225.
No, you're 300. You're 300.
But you're going to be at 300,000, and that is just with labor. That's with
material,
base
land acquisition, engineering fees, et cetera, et cetera.
And
the list goes on and on and on.
And the list goes on and on. So
environmental studies,
So even at 6%, let's say you get a 6% interest rate, and the house is $240, $250.
Right.
You still looking at a $1,900 a month note.
Yeah,
and that's not affordable necessarily for people. It
has changed.
But you can invest in what you want, though, George. So, for instance, the city has the ability to bond housing. Right. We invest in our priorities, and that's what I learned. Some of my background. Some people know, some people don't. I'm also a former city manager, and once you understand with government that you can do anything. You can't do everything, but you can do anything you want. So, so some of it is the priorities that we have as people, and as a city, and even at our elected officials, and you have to be able to hold them accountable. And I think you do that by continuing to show up, but also making sure that you stay with your priorities are. But like you say, to your point, affordable housing and is something that you can never get enough of it. But if you're looking to restart neighborhoods, you have to create neighborhoods that are going to be mixed income. Some affordable, some market rate.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Even if it's rental. Even if it's rental. As my opinion, it has to be a combination. I was one of the first tenants to move into what was then O'Fallon Place Apartments at 14th and Cass. I was the second tenant to move in, and it was a model. And I don't want to tell you the year again because I'll tell my age. But it was a mixed income neighborhood. So it was quite an experience living in 14th and Cass, being a boy who grew up in Webster Groves. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, which I happen to work for the company, so it was a good thing. So those are things that are next. And I mean, what it really impressed me about Park Central Development is, I'm old school, and I come from the time when Park Central was known as Forest Park Southeast, and had the opportunity then to work with the executive director, Irving Blue.
Mr. Irving Blue. Yeah.
And kind of mentored Irving when he first came in. I mean, when he first came in. And it's just amazing, and I applaud you to see the growth of what was known as Forest Park Southeast, the Grove, but more importantly and more significantly, to see how you have expanded the operations of the organization to include 14 neighborhoods, which I applaud you, because dealing with 14 neighborhoods and associations can be tough. I applaud you on that. But not only that, but to see the work that you have done and been able to accomplish. More importantly, the work that you've been able to accomplish. Many of us who are in the community development space, we talk about concepts, et cetera, and what we want to see. But I have to applaud you because you have done it.
I appreciate it. And some of it, George, I appreciate it. I think some of it is just, taking the lessons that I've learned. I've had great teachers. I've had great people who have been there. Even with you when I first started, I know I could always reach out to you. I had a chance to even reach out to, some of my predecessors, to Irvin, when he was with us, I could always call him. Even Dan Krasnoff.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember
Dan
Dan.
was a big
Right.
portion.
Yeah.
So I've learned
Right.
different pieces of it. But I will say this.
You know all the old school.
Oh yes, yes, sir. So what I'll say is this, is that I've been doing this work a long time.
Right.
Since I was 3-4 years old. My mother and Khatib Wahid started Caring Communities in Walnut Park. So I've been doing this for 25 years, literally right. 25 years. And one of the things that's been, is that I've been lucky. And not just lucky, but blessed. God has really blessed the work of my hands, and He's given me the ability to not be ego-centered, and it's people-centered. And I think that is what has been the success. And I've tried to be creative, and I've tried to be a good steward of the resources that have been given to me, and they've been multiplied.
Right.
You don't see a lot of people who take advantage of the dollars that come in. I understand Park Central is in a unique place. And one of the things I've always tried to do is to still share the resources to make the neighborhoods better for everyone.
With that, I'm going to say fantastic. Great having you here with Consumer Thursdays, and the Consumer Council is very appreciative of your time, your commitment to the city of St. Louis, commitment to the neighborhoods in which you work. And yes, I was familiar with your experience as a city manager as well.
Yeah.
Because during that time I was with the Community Action Agency of St. Louis County, and I was doing home repair, weatherization, home ownership, et cetera, as a director of housing. And I had the opportunity to work with the city of Berkeley on several occasions. And it was, with you, its leadership, even then, it was a good experience.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
With that, we're going to conclude this segment of Consumer Thursdays. We're going to, again, thank Mr. Abdullah for his time, consideration, and, of course, that man behind the camera, Mr. Antonio Weston, who put this all together and put it out there for everybody to view. With that, everybody have a great day.